Good morning, church. We hope today is going to be a good Monday for you. As we were sitting here talking, we realized this is the last official week of summer. Last few days of freedom. And I'm sure the teachers are already going, what do you mean? I've already been working for a while, and you have, and we appreciate that so much. Teachers, we want you to know that you are in our prayers, that this school year, at least the beginning of it, is going to look dramatically different for y'all than what it has. And I know y'all are bearing a significant burden on that end, even more so probably than what we are as parents. And so y'all are in our prayers. We love you and we thank you for the work that you're doing.
It's been a weird summer, but we're glad we've gotten to, in some ways, be a part of it. And it's surely one we
at least on a weekly basis.
It's one we won't forget. That's
You're right
for sure.
about that.
We are continuing our study today of the book of Matthew. Today we're actually starting out in Matthew 23. What we want to focus on right now is the idea of the righteousness of the Pharisees was a hypocritical one. In Matthew 23 verse 3, Jesus tells the people, "So practice and observe whatever they tell you, but not what they do, for they preach but do not practice." And then Jesus continues his thorough rebuke later on in Matthew 23 when he says in verse 28, "So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness." The Pharisees didn't practice what they preached, and because of that, a lot of Jesus' most scathing rebukes were saved for the Pharisees. He called them everything from whitewashed tombs, the idea of a tomb that someone had taken all this time to clean and preserve on the outside, but on the inside it was still a dead body in there. Or a dirty cup where someone had washed the outside of the cup, but then they'd left the inside of it filthy.
And vipers.
Exactly. And so Jesus describes the Pharisees as that. He's saying you have all of these great ideas. You have all of these ideas for what spirituality should look like. And you tell them and you teach them, but you don't practice them. He's saying you're very concerned with how you appear externally, but you're not as nearly concerned about how you live internally. And for a lot of us, that probably hits a little bit closer to home than we'd like to admit. So when Jesus says in Matthew 5:20, "For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven," Jesus is describing a righteousness that comes from the heart and then is lived outside the body.
Right. I don't think Jesus by any means is trying to tell us that we need to rely on our own righteousness, that we need to go out and do righteous things in order to be righteous or be right with God. I think what Jesus is saying here in Matthew 5 and verse 20 encompasses everything that he has said up to this point, including the Beatitudes and what we've looked at just previously with the salt and with the light. All of what Jesus has said so far is about recognizing our great need for God, that we can't do this on our own. And if we attempt to do it on our own, we will fail miserably. And that we need to allow our heart to be changed and put complete and total faith and trust in God. And in recognizing our need for God and surrendering our life to Him and adopting His desires for us, our righteousness will exceed that of the scribes and Pharisees, because we will be putting into practice a big aspect that they were missing. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 4, 23 and 24, to be renewed in the spirit of your minds and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. The succeeding verses in Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 21 and following, will reveal that true righteousness comes from the heart. Jesus will begin to say, "You've heard it said," and then he'll follow that up with, "But I say to you." And typically it was what he says, "You've heard it said," is an outward thing, and then what he says is an inward thing, the aspect that the Pharisees were missing. And when we love God with all our heart, what comes natural is joyful obedience. Not obedience out of obligation, not out of obedience because we feel like we owe something, although we owe God everything, but it's not done out of obligation, it's done out of love. And it's done in joy because we want to be right with God. We desire to be in a relationship with God. And that's what will characterize our lives.
Church, today we're challenging you to take off the mask and look inwardly and see, are you really living this, or are you just concerned about the outward appearance? Because if you are, we have great news. It's never too late to make a change.
Right.
Start living today the convictions that you know to be true. We love you so much, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Take care.
Bye.